Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Barry Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got another of my In the News segments for you today, and I've got actually three companies to talk about. One of those is teed up right here with McEwen Inc., and they had a very stellar news release out today. Look at the headline: 36 grams of gold over 10 meters. Froome mine life extended with discovery of new high-grade mineralization. They announced the discovery of high-grade mineralization approximately 200 meters west of the Froome mine, which is the current source of production at the Fox complex. This discovery will extend our mining at Froome. I would add in there that this was getting ready sort of toward the end of its mine life, but now it looks like it's picking up again. Highlights: intercepts along Froome West high-grade plunge. That hole G424 is the one that returned the 36 grammer over 10 meters. Including in that is 160 grams per ton of gold over 2.2 meters and 9.3 grams per ton of gold over 7.8 meters. So very stellar stuff there. Hole 399 returned 6.7 grams over 3.4 meters. 381 was 15 grams over 6.6 meters and 4.9 grams gold over 2.2 meters. So they're getting it in two separate lenses or veins, whatever you want to call it there. Uh, they also highlight extending mineralization further west. Their hole G390 returned 11.7 grams per ton of gold over 2.4 meters and 18.5 grams per ton of gold over a half a meter, representing drill intercepts of two of the stacked mineralized zones stepping out to the west. Hole 413 returned 22.1 grams per ton of gold over 1.8 meters. They talk about the mineralization at Froome occurs as several subvertical stacked mineralized lenses, which can often lead to increased flexibility during mining. Within these lenses, they're seeing a concentration of high grade in a roughly 15 to 20 meters wide. That's very good grade. That's a very good intersection for mining high grade. Vertically oriented trend or plunge. Gold mineralization remains open to the west and at depth, which encourages further exploration in both directions. Froome West mineralization is similar to the style that's seen at the Black Fox deposit, which is approximately 900 meters to the east, characterized by structurally controlled, stacked, subvertically dipping quartz carbonate veins with occurrences of visible gold and showing a steep high-grade plunge. Total historical production at the Black Fox and Froome mines is 1.1 million ounces. The exploration program at Froome West will continue drilling to test deeper along the down dip extension of the high grade plunge and laterally westward along strike to evaluate broader regional mineralization trends. Their figure one provides an aerial view showing the location of Froome West. So here is the Black Fox, that's finished mining, and here is Froome over here. And they talk about mining infrastructure development on 4 levels is planned and already underway at Froome West. So that's a beautiful situation, folks, when you make a high grade discovery and you can get right to mining it very quickly. Starting from existing workings at the producing Froome mine and extending 200 meters toward the west zones. This is shown in blue in figure two. So let's go down to figure two. And as you can see here, so here's the underground workings winding its way through the main Froome. And now they've been working their way over to Froome West, where they have very good continuity of this zone here. And yeah, I mean, look at even over here, you got 22 grams, 7.4 grams right at one of the underground workings. Yeah, it's just one after another of high grade that you can get to very quickly, and you'll see that they're already getting to this, which you can see in this one here. So as you can see, this blue square represents the underground development as of July the 17th, 2025. And as you can see, run down the holes, 6.2 grams over 5 meters, 36 grams. That's over 10 meters. That's a thick intersection of high grade. I bet you they can't wait to get to that because that's a little jewelry box there. 6.7 grams per ton of gold over 3.4 meters, 5.2 grams, 9.3 grams, 15 grams, right below proposed, I believe that is the plan development. So the plan development is going to get to some of this really soon. 15 grammer there, 16 grammer right just directly underneath that underground working, 10 grammer just a little bit over here in this other vein. Then you see more of the continuity, 7.4 grams, 5 grams, 16 grams, 6.5 grams, 4.7 grams. Lots of nice juicy material in there to mine. This discovery of high-grade mineralization will extend the mining at Froome and provide more optionality in our mine plan for the Fox complex. As mentioned in previous announcements, see their June 5th press release and annual meeting presentation from June the 19th, our stock mine is part of the mine plan for the complex and is expected to come into commercial production in 2026. So originally it looked like Froome would be finished, then they would be switching over to stock mine, which they've already broke the ground on and are getting the network of underground workings in there. But now it looks like they can run concurrently. So that's great news, actually. And their chief geologist, Rob Glover, stated, and I quote, "We are excited at the potential of what Froome West holds in an area of our property that is relatively underexplored. Our current mineralization model extends to a depth of 250 meters and remains open both at depth and to the west. The nearby Black Fox mine historically produced nearly 1 million gold ounces from mining that extended down to 800 meters below surface, with geology and mineralization styles comparable to these at Black Fox, which encountered mineralization as deep as 1,000 meters. The Froome West area has the potential to lead us to discovery of a deposit of similar scale and significance," end quote. So Rob highlighted some really good information there because they're talking about, I think this one does a better job of it. They're talking about a 250 meters of depth that starts very close to surface, and has a significant width to it as our side as well along strike. And they highlight that the Black Fox, which is, let me get back here, just right over here, um, that the Black Fox has mineralization all the way down to 1,000 meters, and they mined it down to 800 meters below surface. So that's the nature of these orogenic gold systems. They have very deep roots to them, and the most important thing about an orogenic gold system is that you got gold in it, and they certainly do at this Froome West. Very exciting development for the company as they're getting closer to getting the underground workings over to there and and get mining that material. So that's a heck of a good development for the company. McEwen Mining is one of my favorite picks because they give you a combination of, they give you everything I sort of look for in a company. They're a junior gold miner, so they're estimated, I believe, to produce about 135,000 ounces of gold in 2025. And with the stock production and now this frume production, they can increase their production and bring down their costs. So those are fundamentals of what I look for in any gold mining company. Now, of course, because you're always depleting your resources or your deposits, you need to replace them. And that's what you do with exploration. And so they've got, in addition to this drilling at Froome West, about 3,000 meters to the south on this same Fox complex, they have done a lot of drilling and they're getting a lot of really good results. There's a series of epithermal veins that are like I think about 100 and over 100 of these epithermal veins, and they've got a resource of over 2 million ounces there, and it has a very healthy margin between the cutoff grade and the average grade. So these are the projects. The Gray Fox, which is to the south of this Froome and Black Fox, is a future source of production. Then over at the about 30 kilometers to the west is the Stock Mine, and that still remains open. So they're getting the underground workings into that so they can start producing off of that. And it's still wide open for exploration. So that's another exploration target that's going to be a producer in 2026. It'll be in commercial production. And so they'll start to ramp that up, hopefully in the final quarter of 2025, and then get her into full operations in 2026. And then they've also got a really interesting group of targets and projects down in Nevada that they're drilling a lot. So when I look at any company, I like to see a lot of drilling, and that's exactly what they're doing is drilling to replace what they're mining out, and also planning for the future. And ultimately, they're talking about before 2026 or 2030 that they should have it over 200,000 ounces of gold. Now, if you only looked at them as a gold company, I've recently done some research on comparing companies based on 100,000 ounces of gold. And I did this so that my audience could better understand the valuation that companies get for about 100,000 ounces of gold production. So currently they're at 135% of that. And for 100,000 ounces of gold amongst the miners, it ranges between 800,000 or 800 million of valuation for that kind of production, all the way up to 2 billion for that kind of production. So using that metric as a sort of rule of thumb, the company is trading at about one third what it should just on the gold side of the company alone. But what they also have that in that analysis you're kind of getting for free is their world-class copper development project. It is in the top 10 of undeveloped copper projects anywhere in the world. It also is in the lowest cost quartile. And they're talking about decades worth of mine life on that project. And, That's exactly what the world needs these days is a profitable, big, long life copper mines. We need more of them. And, so that really fits the bill of what copper miners need. And that project is one of only three in the top 10 that are owned by a junior mining company. And so I think, and why they're one of my favorite picks, is I think that McEwen Mining offers a tremendously exciting value proposition. And yeah, do your homework on the company. I recently did a interview with Rob McEwen. Just go to my YouTube channel and do a search for Rocks and Stocks News, and you'll find that. You can also find it on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. Okay, so going from a company that has about a $500 million valuation, I'm going to go all the way down to a company that has about a $4 million Canadian valuation, and that is Xali Gold Corp. And the headline is Xali Gold developing drill targets at Sarap project near Las Chispas mine in Mexico. Many of my viewers will be aware of the Las Chispas mine because that was the one that Silvercrest, one of my picks that did very well. I picked it when they were about $1 a share, and they got bought out not too long ago at several multiples of that. And the reason that they did is Las Chispas is a free cash flow machine of a mine, which is why Core bought them out. To get a sense of how profitable Las Chispas was, when they brought it into production I think about 3 years ago, they owed $100 million for the construct capital cost to build it. After four or so quarters of full commercial production, they paid off all the debt. They built up about $200 million worth of cash, gold, and silver. So it was a real cash machine, low cost to produce from it and high profit margin. And it's an epithermal vein, cluster of epithermal veins. So now I'll get into Xali's news. Xali, pleased to announce, completed strategic data compilation studies on Sarap Silver Project in northern Mexico. Xali optioned Sarap, believing that it covers the northerly extension of a trend of multiple low sulfidation vein systems, including the high-grade silver and gold system at the Las Chispas mine, roughly 20 kilometers to the southwest. Now that's from the claim boundaries to the mine. The claim boundaries of Silvercrest's or now Core, the Las Chispas project goes right up to the Sarap project. Prior to Las Chispas being sold to Core Mining by Silvercrest for Canadian 2.4 billion, Las Chispas was estimated to contain proven and probable reserves of 33.5 million ounces of silver and 350,000 ounces of gold. Two extensive vein structures found on Sarap appear to be typical of low sulfidation epithermal systems like those at Las Chispas, where mineral-rich fluids deposit silver and gold within a specific zone known as the boiling zone. So the lateral zonation in an epithermal vein system is very important because in the top of the vein, you get breccia zones, okay? And so what this is where the country rock is broken up and the quartz vein gets through there, but you get a lot of mixing of the quartz and the country rock. So the gold and the silver in these epithermal veins is actually in the quartz. So that's what you're looking for, and that's below the breccia unit, okay? And that is called the boiling zone. This is where the temperature and the pressure is ideal to have gold and silver deposition in epithermal veins. All right. So they go on in their news release. Within this zone, the highest grade mineralization often occurs in secondary shoots controlled by structural features. This type of epithermal system is common in northern Mexico and includes notable examples like Core's Las Chispas, that was the Silvercrest mine, First Majestic's Silver Santa Elena mine, and Bear Creek Mining's Mercedes mine, which shares similar geological characteristics. In fact, right below to the south of the Las Chispas mine that Silvercrest was mining until they got bought out by Core is First Majestic Santa Elena mine. And there, it's one of their best mines in their portfolio for First Majestic, very profitable. And they, as they've been mining that, they're doing exploration work and they're making new discoveries. You might want to go check out First Majestic because that whole corridor goes for about 45 kilometers from Santa Elena, First Majestic, through Las Chispas, and then on to Sarap. And there's some notes here later that'll tell you how it goes on there. Since optioning Serape, Xali's exploration team, which includes Enrique Bernay and Matt Melnick, have been compiling and reviewing all historical drill data available and have identified boiling zone textures in drill core that increases with depth. This is exactly what you want to see, folks, in these kind of systems. As you get below the breccia unit, that broken up rock with country rock and quartz, you want to get down into mainly just quartz in the boiling zone. All right. Uh, these findings, together with anomalous levels of silver and gold found on surface and in drilling to date, have been compared to many other prolific systems by our team in Argentina, Mexico, Peru, and Chile, such as El Oro. This belongs to Xali. And this is an exciting project as well. It's one of my favorite gold exploration projects in all of Mexico. There was 8 million ounces of historic production on that project, and it still remains wide open for exploration. Another example is Calcatrua, 1 million ounces of gold equivalent, Los Gatos, Cerro Vanguardia, Promontorio, Troike, for both major and junior companies. All of this is key to designing the exploration work required to delineate the best drilled targets. So then Joanne Fries, who, by the way, Joanne Fries, as they say in the business, her claim to fame was she was the QP geologist for Arequipa when they made the spectacular Purina discovery, which was then bought out for by Barrick, and Barrick ended up has been mining that very profitably for many years. And Arequipa went from 30 cents to $30 when they got bought out. So Joanne Fries is a very talented geologist. And she stated, and I quote, "We are very pleased that our exploration team has been able to recognize key vectors to precious metals bearing boiling zones occurring below and lateral to previous drilling. We optioned the project having recognized that key aspects of two known veins on Serape indicate excellent potential to host high grades of silver and gold mineralization similar to Las Chispas and many other low sulfidation systems in deposits and mines both in Mexico and elsewhere. Now we have several key vectors, including geochemistry, lithologies, alteration, and vein textures to direct our exploration and drilling. This gives us a clear path forward, and we look forward to the next phase of work, including detailed geological mapping, relogging of historic drill core, targeted sampling, and the delineation of drill targets to fully assess Serape's potential, end quote. Then in that news release, they talk about a webinar that they were doing, and the link is right there. And I advise you to take a look at that because it's a very impressive presentation about what I think is a great project. And so, just to give you a regional idea, so here's Santa Elena. That's the First Majestics mine, where they're not only mining but making new discoveries. Immediately to the north of that is Las Chispas. That's the Silvercrest mine that was bought out by Core at almost an equidistance. Quite interesting. This is almost the same distance to Las Chispas, and Las Chispas is almost the same distance to Serape. And going through from here all the way to the end of Serape's project is the cluster, a corridor of epithermal veins. They go on to talk about, oh, good, here. Okay, so first we'll go back here. It's located in the Rio Sonora Valley of northern Mexico and comprises of two main epithermal veins, Serape and Chiltepin, that lie on either side of an uplifted block of volcanic rock. So this is important because that uplifted volcanic rock, right at the two edges of it, is where Serape and Chiltepan is. At a later date, I'm going to do an interview with Joey, and I I think I know the answer why she's highlighted volcanic rock uplifting, but I won't spoil the story, if you will. Many vein exposures and drill intersections display high level. So again, you're talking about above the boiling zone, low sulfidation epithermal features, and elevated gold silver values. Now, when you're in the breccia unit, it's important to keep in mind that because you're getting quartz mixing with country rock, if you take an intersection of that, you don't get to segregate out just the quartz that has the gold and silver in it. You send it all in and it gets mixed up there. So it dilutes the grade of what's actually in the quartz vein. So sometimes at some of these epithermal vein systems, for example, at Santa Elena, they only had very low sniffs of gold in the outcropping vein that is the ermitaño. And then they drilled down, I think at about 150 meters or something like that, and they hit the vein and it was over a half an ounce per ton. So that's why this zones of in an epithermal vein are very important. The highest grade samples reported from surface were 3.63 grams per ton of gold and 10 grams of silver over a half a meter at the Serape vein, and 3.66 grams per ton of gold and 177 grams of silver over 1 meter from Chiltepan vein. So again, you're at the very, very top of the system where it comes through the surface and you can actually see it exposed. The Serape vein, which varies in widths from 3 to 12 meters, so that's the standard of this corridor. Well, actually, pretty much all epithermal veins are, 1 to 5-ish type meters. So 3 to 12 meters, very good. Has been mapped and sampled over a strike length of 5,000 meters. Now that's unusually long strike length for an epithermal vein. A lot of times they're like 1,000, 2,000 meters. Some of the special ones can get beyond 2,000 meters. So when you have a 5,000 meter, that's a very good indicator of the power of the mineralizing system. All right, of which only 1.2 kilometers has been drill tested, but very sporadically. I think there's maybe a total of 9 holes that have ever cut across that vein. And again, most of those are high in the system. Previous drilling on the project from 2019 to 2020 included 19 holes targeting the Sarap vein, of which 9 intersected the vein. The Chiltepan vein, which averages 3 meters in width on surface, has been traced over a strike length of 2,500 meters and occurs south of the Serape vein. So again, these are very long strike length epithermal veins. The 2 holes drilled between 2019 and 2020 targeted the Chiltepan vein, and anomalous levels of gold and silver were intersected, which is what you expect when you're above the boiling zone in these epithermal veins. Highlights from previous drilling, so you can see those. There was some good numbers in there, but again, they're actually very good when you consider they're in breccia rock that's got this mixing situation. Uh, Comprehensive review of historical data includes drill core photos, logs, assays, and geological maps. Most of the historical product exploration and all previous drilling have focused on the central portion of the Serape vein. This analysis revealed that textures typically associated with the boiling zone are present in historically drilled area. Now, that is, you're at the upper limits of the boiling zone, is my guess. An offensive drill hole suggests that these textures improve with depth. That's what you want, indicating that the full boiling zone is likely preserved below the current levels of drilling. Additionally, drilling a long strike has intersected the vein, but likely only the upper part of the mineralized zone, indicating that the system may gently to moderately plunge, which is consistent with other regional deposits. It's consistent with most or a lot of epithermal veins. Supporting this interpretation are low gold silver ratios, classic boiling textures, near equal proportions of quartz and calcite, and anomalous antimony gold silver values. Together, these features suggest that the exposed veins on the project represent the upper levels of a low sulfidation epithermal vein system, with the potential for stronger mineralization at depth. These deeper zones now represent compelling targets for follow-up drilling. Additionally, since epithermal veins often occur in clusters, the Serape project also remains open for further exploration to identify additional near surface and blind veins. Okay, blind veins are very important in these epithermal vein clusters. They don't make it all the way to the surface, but sometimes there can be juicy epithermal veins down there. And so photo one is it talks about banded, rhythmic, coliform, crustiform texture. That's what you want when to break that down to less geo speak. This means that when you have these banded, coliform, crustiform, it's indicative of a long-lived mineralizing system. So the fluids came in there over long periods of time. And that's actually what this sort of suggests here when you see this banding here. Uh, so in photo two, you got a little sniff of a boiling texture there. It talks about boiling texture quartz replacing carbonate lattice calcite in hole SAR 19-04. So where the where you get this calcite blading, um, that's a very good indicator that you're in a good epithermal vein system and you're at the top of the system and you need to go lower. All right. And in photo three, they talk about coliform banded texture. So you see these lines here? That's your sign of banded textures, okay? Coliform textures. So this is classic. Like if you go and do a Google search for Hishikari in Japan, one of the great epithermal vein mines of the world, you'll see this banding here. And you can actually see in this picture how you've got that's the mixing, the breccia unit, where you get the quartz and the country rock mixing together. And you can even see a little bit of it down here and a little bit of it above here. All right. So now this is a long section of the Sarap vein. So it outcrops above here and actually has very good distribution of gold and silver. And so, off of these minimal amounts of holes, they are modeling where the mineralization occurs. And as you can see here now, you don't have enough holes to really totally model this. This is just a sort of a first pass modeling, but you're starting to see intersections that are what you want to see in an epithermal vein. And some of the best grades are over in here on this one hole. So, you're just brand new into one of these systems with very shallow drilling. The hole with banded crystal textures that I just talked about earlier, and hydrothermal breccias. I talked about that earlier, and fracture filling with quartz and sulfides. That's exactly what you want to see. And that's what they saw in the drill cores down in here. So then they talk about future exploration. Xali is planning an exploration program to better delineate drill targets by surface mapping, core relogging, and resampling. In the historic drill core, particular focus will be given to vein textures, cross-cutting relationships between vein phases, and any visible signs of mineralization. Where appropriate, samples will be collected for assay to better understand how each vein phase contributes to mineralization. A 3D geological model will then be developed to accurately represent the vein geometry, structural framework, and historical drill results. This model, along with insights from mapping and regional analogies, will form the basis for drilling by Xali Gold. So I don't want my audience to think they need to be a geologist to understand this, but what you can learn when you are looking at any project and you see this level of detail, what it tells you is that the exploration team knows what they're doing and they're doing it the right way. So that's very impressive information there. And then they talk about having projects in Mexico and Peru. Of particular note to me, I think the combination of their Serape project and El Oro is very exciting. So here's some details about El Oro. The company's flagship project, El Oro, is a district scale historic producer of gold and silver. While the company's main goal at El Oro is to make a new discovery similar to the multi-million ounce gold and silver ore bodies mined historically, the company has entered into two agreements with third parties for the rights to produce gold and silver from specific shallow areas of the El Oro project, which are expected to bring in cash flow and open up underground access for drilling. So they brought these contract miners in there that they did a joint venture. The contract miners get to mine the very top of the system, but as they do that, they got to pay money to Chali. But the big thing is that it opens up the underground workings so that then Chali can target the depth below those workings of this El Oro vein system. Uh, so the El Oro property hosts 20 veins with past production and more than 57 veins in total. So you got 20 that were found by the old timers, and 37 of them still haven't been drilled, and these 20 are still open, with two veins alone producing approximately 6.4 million ounces of gold and 74 million ounces of silver from mining that averaged only 200 meters of depth. This is very important because the boiling zone of an epithermal vein, like what these ones that are at El Oro, they have evidence from their drilling that there's actually a stacked boiling zone. So a lot of times these boiling zones can be about 300 meters in vertical depth, and they've got evidence that there's a stacked boiling zone. So you're doubling that boiling zone. These are really exciting things you look for in an epithermal vein system. So that's the story of the Xali Gold's news release today about Serape, and I recommend you go to their website and click on this webinar and listen to Joanne Fries talk about it because she does a heck of a good job. She's a super talented geologist, and her team has done a fantastic amount of work, or a fantastic work from a limited amount of data. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about all that work and that presentation. All right, the final company I'm going to talk about is not, it's going to make news tomorrow. All right. And that's one of my recent picks called Newmont. I picked Newmont back here before they went through this golden cross here, and they have been doing very well ever since. And as you can see, the stock has continuously traded above the 50-day moving average ever since they had their golden cross. And the 200-day moving average is starting to trend up as well. The big news that they have out tomorrow after the market closes is their second quarter quarterly report. So why that's important is that the second quarter of 2025 had the highest average gold price for a quarter ever. So I have a pretty good feeling that there should be some good information in there. And as you notice, it's actually been firming up for the last 4 or 5 days. And even today, when gold was down about 40 or $50, it was only down 0.45%. So the street sounds like the way it's trading, the street is expecting a very good quarterly report. And, you got to go back a pretty long way before the last time you seen them trading where they are right now. You got to go back to early 2022. So this is a nice trend. They got their quarterly report coming out tomorrow. And yeah, I think you want to pay attention to that. Uh, Keep an eye on it during the trading day, especially if gold's going up. And long term, I'm very bullish on Newmont. I think they are funded. They've had some very good fundamental developments over the last year or so. They sold all of their tier two mines, gold mines, and they also fully integrated the takeover of Newcrest. So now that gives them the ability to really focus in on optimizing their tier one gold mines. And I think that this quarter could give you a good indication of how well their optimization is going at their tier one mines. And of course, benefiting from the best quarter ever for the average price of gold. All right. So now, before I close, I just want to go over the metals, the action today. Let me pull up the gold price, and I'm going to talk about gold, silver, and copper. Um, Over the weekend, in the last few days, I've been highlighting the sideways action, the basing of the price of gold. And I noted on my weekend show, which was right here, that the range inside of that basing period was getting very tight. And when I see tightness in the range in a base, I that's a good sign that it's going to break out, especially when you look back here, the fundamentals that drove all this is a pretty good indicator of which direction the breakout will be. Uh, and so it had that breakout. It right here was the weekend, the last Friday, it closed at about 33.46, and today it closed at 33.95. The next big breakout I'm looking for, or the breakout that I'm looking for, is it to exceed its all-time high closing price of around 34.80. And this is on the futures market, by the way, folks. Now, let me pull up a couple of my favorite trends here, which is your 50-day moving average and your 200-day moving average. So this highlights what I just talked about, that the basing period had gotten really, really tight here. This is called an inflection point. And so, then you're looking for what happens after the inflection point, and I predicted it would be a rally to the upside. Now, we've only had about a $50 breakout so far. That's not what I was looking for. That's not what I'm looking for when I talk about a breakout. The breakout I'm talking about is for it to get above this all-time high closing price and trade into new record territory and make a run towards 4,000. And I think that's going to happen this year. Uh, okay, so that's what happened in gold today. It was down. This actually is aftermarket. It shows down 0.02%, but it was actually down about 45 bucks today during the trade. Actually, there you go, $46 today earlier, and now it's down only 80 cents. All right, let's go to silver. Silver, just a beautiful breakout. I talked about the expecting a breakout above 35 way back. Well, just go check out my Substacks. I don't need to pat myself on the back. I know I get these trends right. But what I really been talking about lately is this breakout above $35 because you got to go back to 2012 to see it trading above $35 an ounce. So this was an important breakout. It reminds me a lot of the breakout that gold had in early 2024 when it had tried to get above 2100, sort of got to that 2100 level, got a little bit above it, came below it, and then it broke out. And since it got above 2100, gold's been on a beautiful bull trend that has taken it up to, what did I talk about earlier? Nearly 3,400 or whatever. So this is the most important breakout I've seen in silver since the 2001 to 2011 gold bull market, or the metals bull market in 2001 to 2011. And so, as you can see, it's an important breakout, and it looks like it's going to $40 maybe tomorrow. And what I'm really looking for is it to go from 40 to 50 and then break through 50 because that's the all-time record high for the price of silver. And once it gets through that breakout, I think you're going to see action like you saw here in gold. After gold broke out above 2100, it's made a series of record highs, record highs. I think the total is like 70 or something like that in 2024 and 2025. So that's what I'm expecting to happen uh, by early 2026. All right. Copper has has I talked about copper over the weekend right about here. And what I had noted is that this big breakout here, that happened because Trump had talked about putting a 50% tariff on copper imports to the United States. And so a lot of end users wanted to buy that copper to prepare to get ahead of the tariffs that are supposed to come in on August the 1st. But oftentimes, in any trend, when there's a big spike like that, it often gives back most of the spike move. Let me see if I can find you one here. So here, I mean, this was a pretty spiky kind of move, and you see the way it came back down to where it kind of started, and then it started going on since this bottom in April, it's been on a beautiful trend. It had the golden cross back here in March and had a good rally, came back, and has been trending on a very bullish trend ever since that early April low. But also, what I've been pointed out on the weekend when copper closed last week at about $5.50 was that you notice that since that spike, it maintained well over 50% of the spike. And that's a very bullish thing when you see a spike like that and it maintains a good chunk of the gain. And I pointed out that I think this is happening because the it did two things. It caused the end users that need copper for their products in the United States to get ahead of the tariffs, and they keep buying it. But the most important factor that I believe is that news of the 50% tariff sent a message to the world about how tight the supply is of copper. So it didn't take a lot of volume, as you can see here. It's nothing like way over here to cause that spike. And even the minimal buying is maintaining that. Other evidence of the tightness can be seen in the smelters that are not able to get enough material to refine the copper. So there's tightness in the supply chain. And this new demand that was caused by the announcement caused another a wave of buying that was easily caused the spike to record highs. But look at what has happened this week. It's been on a tear, and it actually traded above the all-time intraday high. It had a new all-time intraday high today, and it has 2 days in a row now of closing prices above the record high in the spike. That's the record high ever for the price of copper. Copper is a coiled spring. Supply is tight, demand is strong. The new demand that's coming in from things like electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, data centers. Next up is robots. The supply chain has been pretty significantly devastated over the last couple decades. Most of the mines that are in production today were found in the 1980s and 1990s. So they're getting very long in the tooth. They're getting old and they need to be replaced. So then you look at the exploration success. And over the last let's say 2.5 decades, the discoveries have fallen off of a cliff. And not only that, the grades are going down in the new discoveries, and you got to go deeper to get to it. So this is a long-term problem for the supply chain of copper. And then you look at the copper development projects, and there's no way that they're going to be able, and that's your pipeline for the next 10 to 15 years, folks. They're not going to be able to replace those old mines that are getting long in the tooth. And so, as you've got this big demand wave coming, there's big problems in the supply chain. To fix those problems, I believe that you need to see $10 and higher copper in order to incentivize more exploration and more new mine development. And so, if the demand is going to keep going up and the supply chain is weak, it will get to a price. You can mark my words on that. It will get to a price that incentivizes the new mine development and the exploration. And I think that that number is north of $10 per pound of copper, and it stays above there for a long period of time. Where it tops out, I'll watch the charts when it gets up to around $10. But I certainly think we're going to see well north of $6, maybe this summer, but certainly by the end of the year. And who knows, it could see 6.50, $7. Copper has issues on the supply chain that very few generalist investors, Wall Street investors, the tech industry that needs all this copper and other users of copper, they just don't talk about it. And this creates a perfect storm for the price of copper to go higher. All righty. So there you go, folks. That's my rundown on a few companies on the news side of things, my rundown on the trends. Today is the Wednesday, the 23rd of July. It's about 9:30 in Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 where I'm recording here in sunny Mexico. And yeah, that's it. So do your homework, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. As always, I'm just an idea generator, folks. It's your job to then talk to your financial advisors, do your homework so you understand what you're investing in, you consider your risk profile. I'm just trying to use my experience of 30 some years working in the mining business. 20 of those, I've been a market commentator. And yeah, I'm trying to be a filter and an idea generator for my audience. So do your homework. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.